Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Adams Rite number 4089-20-119. This is an exit indicator sign, and a lot of little pieces come in the package. Let's go over it. Obviously, first, we're dealing with a 119 finish, a black finish on an occupancy indicator. Okay. This is a -20 version, and that tells us that it's for an unusual door thickness. There are a couple of links below this video, a catalog page and instructions. Okay, good. Catalog page first. Instructions are simple and straightforward, but catalog page is going to allow us to review on page 1 all of the lock types that it's compatible with. We're using them with an 1830 bottom rail deadbolt with an unusual set of cylinders because we're not centering the lock in the door. A 4-inch thick door where we're not centering the cylinders in the door. 1830, yeah, it's the first lock that's listed there. This will work with your bottom rail deadbolt. The function of this provides unmistakable notification of an exit door's locked or open condition. Under many local building codes, or safety codes, this allows the use in certain occupancies of a security deadbolt instead of less secure panic devices. I don't know about that. Panic devices are pretty secure. It includes 2 permanent adhesive header signs. This door to remain unlocked during business hours. And that wording is according to the UBC, Uniform Building Code. The second sign for NFPA and other local building codes, the door to remain unlocked when the building is occupied. Those 2 code documents do not agree on the verbiage, so they give you one of each. The door to remain unlocked when the building is occupied. That's your NFPA 101 code. This building will remain unlocked during business hours. That's your UBC reference. So you get one of each. And, you know, listen, this may be expressly prohibited in the building code. It also can be called out as permissible under certain circumstances, which means, is the authority having jurisdiction giving you permission to do it? And if he does, or she, then you're good. Message panel. Open appears, they say in black letters on a white background. It's obviously green letters. When the locked is locked, it's red letters on a white background. Also available red locked and green unlocked wordless panels. So just, you know, colors only apparently. That may be a bit more common if in a European application. I know that Adams Rite has a substantial European presence. Indicator escutcheon is zinc alloy with a 130 satin aluminum finish or other finishes. This is a 119. Page 2 in the lower left-hand corner tells us how to order. So a 4089 is your occupancy indicator. Now next comes the door thickness. We ordered a 20, whereas the 00 is for inch and 3/4 doors. Okay. There's a -1 as well, and that's going to be for an inverted lock. So 00 standard inch and 3/4 door, 20 for doors up to 2.5. We're going to talk about that next. Or 01 if you're doing an inverted lock. Couple of notes about the occupancy indicator. If you were doing like an 1870 key operated flush bolt, you could, those are going to lock down to the threshold. Well, you could also take that 1870, turn it over, and lock it into the head. That's in essence going to take your lock body, and this is just acting as a sample. You're going to communicate with that hole that's there, and you can see how that hole moves. Just study this hole. It's going to travel here and here. That's action is what's making the occupancy indicator work. Well, if I take that and move it this way, okay, now I have a different condition of locked and unlocked. So the inverted version is going to account for, I would imagine, what we're saying in this position versus this position, because you'd inevitably have to turn it upside down to get the right word, but it's going to be backwards. Okay, so your operation, when you're in the locked position, this is going to read unlocked. When you're in the locked position, it'll read unlocked. You know, when you're unlocked, it'll read locked. So they do have to account. Now, the problem is, it's compatible with the 1830, and unless I'm missing something, there ain't no way that this is going to work on an 1830 as designed, because the 1830 is a bottom rail bolt, and that's going to sit down. So that pin is only going to travel horizontally. Here again. So what that means is it's only going to travel horizontally. Okay. So that's how that's going to work. It's going to have to be laying on its side, unless I'm missing something, but I don't believe it I am. Now the dash 20 for doors up to 2 1/4 thick, I have discovered that that's really, that's because that's how the manufacturer has tested it, there's no doubt. That's the way they supply it. You're going to get different pins when you order the 20 variant. You're going to get 3 lengths of what would look like to a locksmith as an ejector tool for interchangeable core. Depending on the lock type, you might take this pin and stick it into the lock body, and it's going to sit right there, and then you get the concept of how that's going to work. Okay. Other locks, like the bottom rail 1830, they're going to require a solid rod. And there are 3 lengths of solid rod. To illustrate how that is going to work, that rod's going to go right through the lock body. And as I operate the lock, you get the concept of what's going to happen. And it's that travel of the rod that's going to force the occupancy indicator locked, unlocked. Length of the 3 solid rods, you got one that's 2 1/4. The medium length is 1 15/16. The shorter one is 1 3/4. Your ejector pin style, the solid portion only, 7/8 to 3/4 to 5/8. You're going to get a couple of screws for holding the occupancy indicator onto the face of the door. What's occurred to me is, if you're doing an 1830, why don't I just get a longer rod? Obviously, it's not tested that way. In the instance of this project that we're working on, and this rod diameter is 0.157. What's occurred to me is, because of our unusual circumstance of not centering the lock in the door, the client wants to use the occupancy indicator even though it'll lay on its side. We based our entire dimensional properties of shifting the lock over, biased towards the short end, obviously, because of a maximum door thickness. I don't remember what we were doing. Yeah, we were doing the longer side with this longer cylinder for a maximum door thickness of 2.5. Had it dawned on me that all was necessary was a longer solid rod to really make it work, that would have been done. This case might require a piece of threaded rod with nuts on either side of the lock body to hold captive a biased rod so that it will work with the occupancy indicator, and we're going to determine how we're going to best handle that. But the entire design of these unusual cylinders, 2 3/4 and then 1 1/4, for our 4-inch door to get the lock body scooched over to the point where we can use an occupancy indicator, was based on a 2.5-inch maximum door thickness. Obviously, Adams Rite would not endorse using, rods that have not been tested, but I can surely buy a high grade of solid rod from an industrial hardware store, and it's going to work perfectly. Now, the how to order, we talked about the three options. Now 3 finishes, 130 aluminum, 119 black, 121 dark bronze. The size of the decals I didn't go over with you. 1.5 inch overall height on the decals, and the code's going to say that the letters need to be 1 inch tall, but these are coming in at 1.25 inches. I'm sure there'll be no problem with them being larger than called out as a minimum. Overall length of the decal, they have it at 15 inch. That's way off. These are closer to 30. Okay. Black letters on a silver background. It appears to be white, but my eyes tell me it's closer to silver. Completely code compliant. Or at least, I should say, very permitted. I have found it to be permissible by certain authorities having jurisdiction. I've seen them out in the wild, these decals on the headers of frames, and they work for that jurisdiction. The rest of the product page that we're looking at gives us dimensions of what they'd like for us to prep everything at. And the preps that are there are certainly going to work out really well for us. Really all that you have to do for the occupancy indicator is to drill those 2 holes that are 5/8 diameter. 7/8 diameter. To allow the travel of the rod, of the pin, through the door. So that's really no big deal. You just have to prep that. Lock knot in the door, make your 2 preparations based on the back side of the lock, whatever that might be. There's probably at least 4 back sets from Adams Rite that it could be. 7/8, 1 inch, 1.1 inch. There may be a 31, there is a 31 32nds, there is 1.5 inches. So you make those preps in the face of the door. The template gives us all the same data, basically. So there's really no new information there at all. They do give us, for 1.5 inch back set, they're showing us, be mindful, the center line, I spoke a little too quickly. The center line of your prep for the occupancy indicator for both the screws that hold it on is not the same center line as the back set. You're going to bias that based on the back set. 31 32nds or 1.1 inches are going to be different than the 1.5 inches. The adjustment from vertical, from center, is not the same. And that's called out there. With the lock installed, insert the pin through the slot, etc. Step 1. With lock installed and unlocked, insert pin through the slot in lock side plate into the bolt opening provided. We've demonstrated that. That'll go here. Step 2. With lock unlocked and indicator panel reading open, place indicator over operating pin and mount indicator with screws provided. Dimensions in parentheses are in millimeters. Make sure header face is clean and dry. Peel the backing from the sign and get it centered over the opening. That's it. That's all there is to it about this occupancy indicator. You do certainly see them installed. I don't see them in bottom rail deadbolts that often, but this job's going to get one. And that's the way that they wanted that. Finally, there's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Adams Rite products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. If you have any questions on the Adams Rite 4089 occupancy indicator or any other Adams Rite product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.